The champagne was flowing at the Majestic Hotel's penthouse suite, but the tension in the room was thicker than the cigarette smoke drifting from the balcony. It was May 18th, 2003, the sixth night of the Cannes Film Festival, and Hollywood's elite had gathered for Harvey Weinstein's exclusive after-party. What happened in that room would remain buried for years, protected by NDAs and professional courtesy. Until now. Jackie Chan stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Mediterranean, his third glass of wine untouched in his hand. At 49, he was supposedly at the peak of his Hollywood crossover, fresh off the success of Shanghai Nights. But everyone in that room knew the truth. Jackie was frustrated, trapped between two worlds, neither fully accepting him. 20 feet away, Tom Cruise held court with a circle of executives and young directors. Mission Impossible 2 had made him the undisputed king of action cinema in Western eyes. At 40, Cruise was younger, richer, and commanded budgets that dwarfed anything Jackie had ever seen in Hollywood. The two men had been avoiding each other all evening. "You know what kills me?" Jackie suddenly said, loud enough for half the room to hear. He wasn't drunk. Those who knew him understood he rarely drank enough to lose control. This was calculated. Everyone talks about the great action stars of Hollywood, but how many actually do their own stunts? Really do them? The room's energy shifted. Conversations faltered. Quentin Tarantino, mid-anecdote about Kill Bill's fight choreography, turned to watch. Harvey Weinstein's assistant frantically texted her boss, who was downstairs schmoozing with French distributors. Tom Cruise's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He continued his conversation, but everyone could see he was listening. Jackie pushed forward, addressing no one in particular, but everyone at once. "In Hong Kong, we have a saying, the audience can smell fear through the screen. They know when it's real. When you see a stunt double's back, when the camera cuts away at the crucial moment, that's not action, that's theater." Jackie, Brett Ratner, who directed him in Rush Hour, tried to intervene, but Jackie wasn't finished. 2 decades of Hollywood frustration was bubbling over, the rejected scripts that went to younger white actors, the studio notes asking him to be more Chinese or less Chinese, depending on the market. The knowledge that despite his lifetime of literally breaking bones for his art, Hollywood would always see him as a novelty act. "Some people," Jackie continued, now looking directly at Cruise, "they stand on wires, they let computers do the work, they let doubles take the hits. Then they collect 20 million and call themselves action heroes. Me, I've broken every bone in my body. No wires, no doubles, no fake." The accusation hung in the air like a challenge. Everyone knew exactly who Jackie was talking about. MI2's motorcycle chase, its elaborate wire work, Cruise's carefully managed stunts that were impressive but safeguarded by millions in insurance and safety protocols. Tom Cruise set down his drink. The room held its breath as he walked across the marble floor, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. He stopped 3 feet from Jackie, close enough that their height difference, barely 2 inches, seemed negligible. "You think I'm fake?" Cruise's voice was quiet, controlled, but there was steel underneath. Jackie didn't back down. "I think Hollywood creates illusions, very expensive illusions. What happened next would be debated, disputed, and mythologized by everyone present. Some swear Cruise smiled, others insist his face remained stone. But everyone agrees on what he said. Tomorrow, Paramount's lot in Nice, just you and me. No cameras, no publicity. Let me show you something." Jackie Chan, who had never backed down from a challenge in his life, found himself momentarily speechless. This wasn't how Hollywood operated. Stars didn't have private physical confrontations. Their lawyers and agents fought their battles. "What are you proposing?" Jackie asked. "A conversation," Cruise replied, "about what's real." Before Jackie could respond, Harvey Weinstein burst through the door, all 300 pounds of him radiating alarm. His assistant had clearly briefed him on the developing situation. "Gentlemen, Tom, Jackie, my 2 favorite action heroes." His booming voice shattered the tension like a hammer on glass. Come, let me introduce you properly." But the damage, or perhaps the opportunity, was already created. The next morning, while the rest of Cannes nursed hangovers and pitched projects, Two unmarked Mercedes S-Classes left the Carlton Hotel at precisely 9 a.m. Inside the first car, Tom Cruise sat in silence, wearing jeans and a black t-shirt instead of his usual premiere-ready attire. His publicist, Pat Kingsley, had strongly advised against this meeting. His lawyer had threatened to quit, but Cruise had overruled them all with a simple declaration: "This is about respect." In the second car, Jackie Chan was having his own doubts. His manager, Willie Chan, no relation, had spent half the night trying to talk him out of it. "You have nothing to prove," Willie had insisted. "You're Jackie Chan. You've been doing this since before Tom Cruise could walk." But that was exactly why Jackie had to go. For too long, Hollywood had put him in a box, the funny Asian guy who did impressive stunts but could never be a real leading man like Cruise or Pitt or Damon. This wasn't about proving who could take more punishment. This was about forcing Hollywood to see him as an equal. The Paramount facility in Nice was a skeleton operation, mostly used for European productions and storage. On this Sunday morning, it was virtually empty except for a security guard who'd been paid triple overtime to look the other way, and a medic who'd been hired just in case, without being told exactly what might happen. The two men met in a converted soundstage that had been used for fight training during the filming of The Count of Monte Cristo. Blue mats covered the floor. The space smelled of rubber and old sweat. No windows, no witnesses except for one. Christopher McQuarrie, Cruise's friend and future Mission Impossible director, who would serve as an unofficial referee and the only person both men trusted to never speak publicly about what was about to occur. "Before we start," Cruise said, rolling his shoulders, "I want to make something clear. That wire work you mocked? I do it because if I die, 3,000 people lose their jobs. Every stunt I do is calculated risk versus responsibility. That's not fake. That's professional." Jackie nodded slowly. "In Hong Kong, if I die, my stunt team finds another job tomorrow, so I risk everything. Different worlds, different rules." "Maybe," Cruise said. "We're not so different." What followed wasn't a fight. Both men had too much to lose and too much respect for the craft to engage in a pointless brawl. Instead, it became something rarer and more valuable, an exchange. For 2 hours they shared techniques. Cruise demonstrated the rigorous preparation that went into his safeguarded stunts, the months of training, the precise calculations, the way he pushed insurance companies to their limits to do as much as possible himself. He showed Jackie footage on a portable DVD player of MI2 outtakes where he'd come within inches of death on the motorcycle, saved only by precise timing and, yes, safety cables. Jackie, in turn, showed scars. Each one came with a story that made even Cruise wince. The skull fracture from Armor of God, the broken ankle where the bone had punched through the skin, filmed and used in the movie. The time he'd nearly died when a stunt went wrong and he'd continued filming while internally bleeding. "You know what I realized?" Jackie said after demonstrating a complex flip that at 49 he could still execute flawlessly. "We're both crazy, just different kinds of crazy." Cruise laughed, a genuine laugh, not his practiced interview laugh. "You know what the insurance company charges to cover me? $15 million per film. You? In Hong Kong? Maybe 15,000. In Hollywood?" Jackie grinned. "They won't even quote a price anymore." The ice wasn't just broken, it had melted entirely. They spent another hour trading stories, comparing injuries, discussing the philosophy of action cinema. Cruise showed Jackie some of the MI3 pre-production materials he'd brought, seeking input on a sequence involving Shanghai. "You want to film in Shanghai?" Jackie's eyes lit up. "I know everyone there, but Tom, the stunts you're planning, the Chinese government will never approve unless what? Unless you had a Chinese co-star, someone they trust, someone who could guarantee safety and authenticity." Cruise studied Jackie for a long moment. "Are you proposing what I think you're proposing?" This was the moment that would change everything. Not the confrontation, not the challenge, but this quiet recognition between two men who understood that the industry that had pitted them against each other could just as easily unite them. "MI3 could use someone who knows Shanghai," Jackie said carefully. "Someone who could make those stunts look real because they are real. A consultant, maybe. Or Or a co-star, Cruise finished, a real one, not a cameo. The possibility hung between them like a bridge waiting to be built. Both men knew the obstacles. Paramount would resist. Jackie's salary demands, the insurance nightmare, the complicated politics of giving equal billing to a Chinese star. The Chinese government would have their own demands. Jackie's Hong Kong investors would worry about him being overshadowed in an American franchise. But in that moment, none of that mattered. "You know what the problem is?" Jackie said after a long silence. "Hollywood thinks there's only room for one action star at a time. In Hong Kong, we all grew up together. Me, Sammo, you, and Biao. We made each other better. Competition, yes, but also collaboration." "The studio system," Cruise agreed. "They profit from the competition. They create it. So maybe we change the system." They shook hands, not for any camera, not for any deal, but as a recognition of mutual respect. Two men who'd climbed different mountains to reach the same peak, finally seeing each other clearly. Word of the meeting leaked within hours, of course. Nothing stays secret in Hollywood, especially not during Cannes. But the real story, what actually happened in that converted soundstage, remained known only to the three men present. Harvey Weinstein, sensing opportunity like blood in the water, immediately began making calls. By Monday morning, he was pitching a project to Paramount. Chan and Cruise, East meets West. Imagine the box office. Imagine the territories we could open. But the real conversations were happening elsewhere. Pat Kingsley met with Willie Chan at the Hotel du Cap. Lawyers from CAA, ICM, and William Morris circled like sharks. The trades ran speculative pieces about a potential collaboration based on sources close to both camps. The stumbling block, predictably, was ego. Not between Jackie and Tom, that had been settled in the gym, but between their massive support systems. Paramount wanted Jackie for MI3, but as a supporting player. Jackie's team demanded co-lead status and a producer credit. The negotiations dragged on for months. During this time, something remarkable happened. Jackie and Tom began training together in secret. Cruise would fly to Hong Kong between MI3 prep sessions. Jackie would visit Cruise's compound in Telluride. They shared stunt teams, traded techniques, pushed each other in ways their usual training partners couldn't. "He's insane," Jackie told his team after one session, where Cruise had attempted a jump between buildings that even Jackie considered risky. "But it's a focused insanity. He calculates everything." "He makes me look lazy," Cruise confided to Macquarie. "The man is 49 and moves like he's 25. No wires, no nets, just faith in his own ability." The collaboration that emerged from these sessions would have been revolutionary. The script pages that Macquarie drafted featured sequences that combined Cruise's high-tech precision with Jackie's improvisational genius, set pieces that would have redefined action cinema. But Hollywood is a machine that runs on fear as much as ambition. By September 2003, the deal was dead. Paramount's insurance company delivered the killing blow. The combined coverage for both stars in the same film would have added $40 million to the budget. The studio executives, already nervous about MI3's escalating costs, pulled the plug. The official story was scheduling conflicts. Jackie was committed to around the world in 80 days. Cruise needed to focus on MI3 without distractions. Both statements were technically true and completely misleading. The real story was more complex and more tragic. Two artists who had found unexpected kinship were pulled apart by the very system they'd conquered. The lawyers, agents, managers, and executives who profited from their success couldn't risk the uncertainty of collaboration. But the impact of that meeting in Nice rippled outward in ways no one anticipated. Tom Cruise's approach to stunts evolved. MI3 featured more practical effects, more real danger, less reliance on digital enhancement. The famous Shanghai sequence bore Jackie's invisible fingerprints. Cruise had incorporated techniques learned during their training sessions. When Cruise hung off the Burj Khalifa in MI4, industry insiders could see Jackie's influence in the way he moved, the way he trusted his body over technology. Jackie Chan, for his part, began demanding more creative control in his Hollywood projects. The meeting with Cruise had reminded him of his worth, not as a sideshow but as an artist who had perfected his craft over decades. When he eventually received an honorary Oscar in 2016, Cruise was one of the first to congratulate him. Their brief partnership, remembered in a warm embrace captured by photographers who had no idea of its significance. The myth of their confrontation grew with each telling. Some versions had them actually fighting, Jackie's kung fu against Cruise's street brawling. Others claimed they'd planned an entire film together that was killed by jealous executives. The truth, as always, was both simpler and more complex. Two men at the peak of their powers had recognized each other as equals. In an industry built on artificial competition, they had found genuine respect. That their collaboration was stillborn remains one of Hollywood's great what-ifs. Christopher McQuarrie, the sole witness to their private session, would later become the architect of Cruise's mission, Impossible Renaissance. In interviews, he would occasionally reference lessons learned from unexpected teachers, never elaborating on what he meant, but those who knew the story understood. In 2018, at a film festival in Beijing, Jackie and Tom crossed paths again. Older now, bearing more scars, Jackie's visible, Tom's hidden beneath Hollywood magic, they shared a quiet dinner away from the cameras. "You know," Jackie said over dumplings, "we could still do it. Different movie, different studio. We're both too old for anyone to insure anyway." Cruise smiled that famous smile, but his eyes were serious. "Don't tempt me. I've got a helicopter sequence planned for MI7 that could use someone who actually knows how to fall." They laughed, but the seed was there. In an industry obsessed with youth, two aging warriors who had proved their authenticity in different ways, still dreaming of the film that got away. The waiter, a young man who recognized both stars, asked for a selfie. As he positioned his phone, he asked innocently, "Have you two ever worked together?" Jackie and Tom exchanged a look that contained multitudes, rivalry transformed into respect, opportunity lost to corporate fear, and the unspoken understanding that in another timeline, they had created something magnificent. "Not yet," they said in unison. "The real tragedy isn't that Jackie Chan and Tom Cruise never made a film together. It's that their brief partnership revealed what was possible when ego gave way to artistry, when competition became collaboration." For a few months in 2003, the action genre almost evolved into something unprecedented. Instead, they returned to their separate kingdoms. Cruise continued his impossible missions, each stunt more death-defying than the last, carrying lessons learned in a nice gymnasium. Jackie continued his cross-cultural journey, fighting for respect in an industry that would always see him as other, no matter how many bones he broke for his art. But those who were there, at the party, at the gym, in the rooms where deals die, know the truth. For one brief moment, two icons looked past the machinery of fame and saw each other clearly. And in that recognition was the promise of what cinema could be when artists refused to be pitted against each other. The champagne flutes from that Cannes party have long since been washed. The egos bruised that night have healed or calcified. But somewhere in the vault of discarded dreams, there exists a script, pages yellowed, coverage notes forgotten, titled simply East-West. On the cover, two names share equal billing, Chan and Cruise. Hollywood's greatest action film was the one they never let happen.